Good morning, world. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and shalom. Um, so the reason I started this video, and I know I look a little dusty. I just woke up, but something came to my mind, and if something's fresh on my mind, I have to go with the flow. I have to get it out. That's how I am. I'm an impulsive guy. So, this topic is going to be a heavy one. So I'm not a person. I don't believe in trigger warnings because the same people. It's like, how are you going to put a trigger warning on something when you describe the things that trigger people? You know what I mean? That's like I was saying, like, let's say there's a veteran that has PTSD from war and battlefields and stuff. Like, is it really gonna, World War II, the headline, alone, or Vietnam War would probably trigger something in them as well. So I'm not going to give trigger warnings. That's not me. I don't think it's reasonable. I think that we live with triggers and what the things that we go through in our everyday life, and not that it's just like suck it up and get over it. But you have to learn that you're living in an environment, and if you live in a society, unless you want to dig yourself in a hole and be a hermit, you're going to get triggered by every single thing out there. And that's just my personal opinion. This is no shade to anybody that believes that. I'm just, that's just something I don't believe. But anyway, so this is going to be a triggering topic. So if you have experienced any issues or the things like regarding sexual abuse, sexual exploitation, or anything like that, I highly recommend that you turn away right now. This is going to be the official warning. I'm not going to do any other warnings after this about any descriptions. I'm going to keep it raw, and I'm going to keep it as PG as possible, also to not get flagged by YouTube or anything like that. I do want this to have a conversation that people, if they feel comfortable enough having it with people that are a little on the younger side. I'm not saying, like little kids, but obviously teenagers, they're considered children by society. But guess what? The same kids that you think are little angels are getting exposed to a lot of things by a lot, just as bad like this when they're alone in private, when they're on their cell phones, the music they listen to. You're gonna have to have a conversation like this anyway. So if you have kids and you're trying to protect them from this, I highly recommend you listen to this, because I'm gonna also have a follow up and talk about an experience that I had in my life. What that kind of cements my view and opinion on this as well. And that's a really, really personal, deep one. And it's going to take me a lot to kind of formulate how I'm going to do that out, because, it's a sensitive topic. But anyway, the title is, who failed who? The hypocrisy of the cancel culture. And of course, use the hashtags of R. Kelly, Aaliyah, and stuff like that, because there's just a bunch of people like situation cancel culture. I'm not going to go into all of them, but in particular, I'm going to focus on focusing in on the R. Kelly situation. And I might dab off into other situations as well. I'm real long winded, so forgive me. I'm just going to go speed through this, right? So, the way inspired this today is I got up and in my head, I'm saying, I know that music is considered haram and all that kind of stuff, right? But I grew up listening to music, bro. Like, it's a part of my culture. It's not gonna go. It's unlike I sit in the hole and for 40, 50 years by myself. Those songs are still ingrained in me. I hate to say it. It is what it is, right? People can get into it and say, brother, you're not pious enough and this and that. Bro, it's just true. I mean, let's just be real. I was thinking like, oh, Age Ain't Nothing But Aaliyah by Aaliyah. Man, bro, that was when that song came out. I was a kid when that album came out. I was a kid. That came out like 94, 95, or 96, something around there. I was in elementary school at the time. So, my older brother was a huge Aaliyah fan. Of course, then my dad, my parents loved R. Kelly. That was a thing back then. So, of course, he produced the album, wrote most of the songs and stuff. Bro, I was like, dude, that album is a perfect R&B album. Say what you want to. That guy is a scumbag. I get it. But that scumbaggedness, that is ingrained in his character. And I'm not saying this is a part of his talent, but his talent is phenomenal. In my personal opinion, I think we are never going to see a guy that can't read. The dude couldn't read. How is a dude that can't read producing the best, most massive R&B hits of like of a whole decade, from like the early 90s or mid 90s on to the early 2000s. The guy is a freaking genius. You can get in your feelings if you want to. There's a lot of people that are geniuses that are terrible people. I mean, I'm not, and so I'm not saying this to boost him up and put him on a pedestal and make him act like a saint. Like, no. Of course, we already know we're not ignorant to his crimes and to the bad things that he's done. That being said, let me move on. So I was just like, listen, I was listening to the lyrics and I was like, this is actually really kind of disturbing to listen to, like now, but it's still a beautiful song. I've listened to plenty of songs that have really disturbing lyrics in it. I used to be a huge fan of the band, the Velvet Underground. There's a lot of really messed up things in the Velvet Underground, especially their song Heroin. I mean, I can imagine there's probably so many people that literally like, oh, this sounds cool. Like Heroin sounds cool. But it's like the most messed up song because it breaks down the evil of heroin and the beauty of the addiction and the feeling of the high that he gets. That's a whole different other thing, a subject. But anyway, so I was just like, this is really messed up, right? And why is it that we kind of just let this go under the radar, right? And the reason is because in the long run, I think it's because people still wanted to have fun, And I hate to say that about, I'm not going to diss black people and say that this is exclusive to our culture and stuff like that. But people, they want to feel good, and that's dude, especially feeling good is the American way, right? Like we love to feel good. We love to get that gratification. Like people, the average American knows what they're eating is absolute garbage, right? We know the food's toxic. It's disgusting. It's not natural. It's not good for your body, but we eat it anyway, right? We know that the alcohol we drink is absolutely terrible for us. For medically, there's very little, there is a few benefits of alcohol if you drink in modesty, but like people aren't drinking alcohol modestly. A lot of people are drinking alcohol to get drunk. So you're drinking alcohol to get drunk. That's terrible for your body. You like all over for your liver, your kidneys, your heart, your stomach, your freaking brain. I don't need to get into it. And one of these days I will have a discussion on my battles with alcoholism and what alcohol has done for me, in my personal life and as well as like in my, physically and mentally and spiritually, like how alcohol has affected me as somebody that, has a lot of issues. Right. So right now I think about how, also sex, man, everybody loves sex, bro, and then don't get me wrong. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be vulgar, but people like sex for a reason, right? Then people like the other two things I talk about for a reason. People like crappy food, right? Because it tastes good. At least it makes them feel good in the moment, for a moment, but they feel like crap afterwards, right? Alcohol, drugs, right? Feels real good when you're on it, but when you're not on it and you got those addictions craving, it doesn't feel too good. Or when we wake up in the morning hungover or strung out from the day before, you're thrown up in the toilet, you're bleeding in places never thought you were bleeding for. I'm just going to keep it a buck. You know what I'm saying? Like, because, it just watch any documentary on drug addiction. People will tell you stories, right? And then, sex. Yeah, sex feels good, right? So that being considered, okay, yeah, people want to have sex, right? And yeah, and don't get me wrong, I like sex. Everybody likes sex. Even the most pious religious people, they can be a freaking saint or whatever like that. Even they admit that, hey, sex feels good, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we know that why people want to have sex. This doesn't take a no-brainer. It's a natural urge. There's nothing wrong with wanting to have sex. It's about that human sexuality has been a constant battle, I think, for us because we're trying to hone it in and be functional. Like, because there's just like, like I mentioned before, alcoholism, right? Everybody wants to say alcohol is a permissible in a society and stuff, but there's ways that it's quote unquote functional to drink and there's unfunctional. That's what we call the functional alcoholic, right? The functional alcoholic goes to work on time. The functional alcoholic, doesn't beat up his wife and his kids. The functional alcoholic, it's fun to be around, but they're freaking got a drinking problem. They're destroying themselves. But as long as everybody gets what they want out of the functional alcoholic, everything's gravy, right? Nobody's going to call the functional alcoholic out unless they really care about them, as long as they get what they want. Hey, this person's not disturbing the peace. They're not being disorderly. They're going to work on time. They're not being an abuser or whatever like that. It is what it is. So, yeah, human sexuality is like that too. And, for instance, throughout different, so actually still to this day, and even here in this country, believe it or not, so Americans, don't get on your freaking high horse and act like you're the moral authority of the world. The age of consent laws vary from country to country all over the world. Everybody thinks they have it right. Even here in the U.S., your kid can get married. Child marriage is legal in the United States. So for the U.S. to get on its high horse and act like it's not a thing, you can, I think close to 500,000 children are married in the U.S., right? And don't pick on any kind of religion in particular, stuff like that, because the result will shock you. I will go into that, the demographics of what groups are getting married is, at very, very young. But anyway, so that being said, we have pornography. I'm not going to go into my stance on pornography. It's out there. Watch one of my videos. But we want to, have an open, sexual, liberated society, quote unquote, quote, liberated society, right? But really what we want is a hedonistic, chaotic, dysfunctional sexual society where people, you especially, like, I really think about it, and I'm going to hold myself accountable like this, right? We want to tell young men, oh, don't do this, don't do that. But we want to, but we're constantly throwing sexual images at them. Like have sex. And if you're not having sex, something's wrong with you. You're lame, you're weird if you're not having sex. If you're not constantly seeking sex or getting sex, you're weird. So, and this doesn't excuse anybody feeling uncomfortable or anything like that around people. But let's be honest, you can't have these messages come up from society, from the media, from the culture you live in, from, books you read and things like that. And then when people interact with the opposite gender, they lose their freaking minds. They don't know how to interact without having some extreme sexual connotation on the back of their brain. Like, how can I possibly get this person in bed? That's in the back of their people's minds. And people don't want to talk about that. When they, it could be people that are married. It could be people in a relationship or whatever like that, single people, and especially with single people, right? You can't have people working in the workplace and then, you can cut the sexual tension with a knife. And you wonder why sometimes things like that are unfortunate are happening. It's because our society pushes something and then doesn't really understand that the same things you're pushing have repercussions. You know what I'm saying? You can't say we want people to be treated with dignity and respect and stuff and all this stuff, but all at the same time you're objectifying both men and women, but obviously women get the most, right? Well, let's be keeping a buck. But also on the flip side, you tell men that if they're not seeking sexual validation, they're constantly going out there and having sex. Sex is the most important things. Like literally, almost like people tell, besides money, sex is the most important things that guys should have. It's not being productive or mattering or being a productive member of society. Almost, it's like you're literally like just constantly flooded with, hey, have sex. And so you wonder why boys out here freaking wilding. Let's keep it a buck. So with the Aaliyah situation in particular, I feel really sorry for her and her situation. You know what I'm saying? She was like 14 when she got signed over to the record label. She was, young and naive. And also, and this is going to be a big thing, a lot of you parents out there act like you're freaking innocent. So when something does happen to your kid, you act like, oh, how did I know that this was happening to my kid? The situations you choose to put your children in, you're responsible. You're directly responsible for the situations you put your children in. So her parents signed her to a record label at that age, right? They probably didn't even check out the contracts or anything like that. Hey, they probably looked like, oh, this is a cash cow. You know what I'm saying? And then put you with the producer, R. Kelly. Now, R. Kelly's, at least for what I know, R. Kelly's history really wasn't out there like that per se, because this is before the internet. Everything was just about the radio. That's a word of mouth. So most likely, if he did have that business, people probably weren't really knowing about it too much, unless you were in his immediate circle or you were acquaintance with him. But the general public really didn't know what kind of person he was. But let's say, and you like to think that you trust people, right? Let's say, like, I'm a guy, right? If I like my boy's football coach, I would like to think he has the best intentions for my son. I can't be there with my son 24/7. If they're out there training together and things like that, I would like to think his coach is not trying to grab his butt or do anything inappropriate with my son or anything like that. He's probably just going to coach him. He's going to run, train simulations and all that kinds of crap, the things that football players do. And so a lot of parents think like, oh, my daughter's 14, whether it be a man or a woman, this person has the best intention for my kids. They're recording the tracks, they're producing it, this and that, right? But you got to be careful, because also look at the music that R. Kelly did. R. Kelly didn't stray away from the fact that he was a hypersexual guy. His music was nothing but sex. Let's keep it a buck. So you're putting a hypersexual person around your child. And I see this happen even today. You got people sending their kids off to hang out with people, grown adults, that put themselves out there as like their music is hypersexual. Some of these people are even freaking porn stars. They do pornography and things like that. And you're putting your kid around this person in these situations. Think of the logic behind that, right? That's like me. Like, I know, like, let's say I don't want my kid being around, alcohol or drugs or anything like that. And I put myself around freaking, somebody that's known just to get intoxicated a lot. And I say, hey, stay the night at his house or hang out with him late nights. And that this guy's never going to try to hand my son a joint or drink with him or something like that. Even so, if he doesn't offer those things, the behaviors that person instills publicly with that kid, kids are impressionable and they're going to pick up on that. So, they set up the situation like that. And of course, we already know what happened in the long run. R. Kelly actually tried to marry Aaliyah. They actually got a marriage certificate. And then later on, of course, it got nullified. And I think it got nullified because the public found out about it. But the parents also, it turns out, R. Kelly was smashing Aaliyah's mom. And let's be honest, and we want to talk about this. Our culture, both men and women, put so much a high value on sex. And we never talk about women putting these toxic men on a pedestal too. Because R. Kelly was getting and this is going to keep it a buck. I'm not crapping on my community, but let's keep it a buck. Black women loved R. Kelly like black men loved Halle Berry back in the day. R. Kelly couldn't do no wrong. They were throwing panties at this guy, grabbing his dick in concerts and stuff. I've seen R. Kelly concerts. I've never been at one, but I've seen videos of R. Kelly concerts and how girls were losing their mind. Every black woman I know listened to R. Kelly day and out. Brothers did too, especially my dad loved R. Kelly when he did the duets with Ronald Isley. Woo! And those were fire. I ain't even going to front, bro. The Ronald Isley wasn't singing with any modern R&B singers but R. Kelly. Those were fire. The whole Keep It on the Down Low. Ooh, fire. You get offended. Hey, let it be what it is. But those were the most fire R&B albums of that time. They got the old school with the new school. I haven't seen that since. Anyway, so they knew the situation, and then on top of that, you're putting her into an industry with all these older men hanging out. What is it like an underage girl hanging out with the grown ass men that drink, smoke, and hang out with hoes all the time? What logic is that? What logic is that? You know what I'm saying? It's completely stupid. So I saw one in the comment section in that song. You look at the lyrics, of course, the lyrics are what they are about, right? Age ain't nothing but a number. Hey, if you're not intelligent enough to understand what that means, hey, you're lost to me. But anyway, so yeah, they put them in that situation, right? And then so years later, of course, all the news comes out about R. Kelly, and it's like, no kidding. Like, we saw the signs there, and somebody in the comment section was like, "We failed Aaliyah." No, first off, that music came out when I was a kid, so I was a little kid. I had nothing to do with any of that. I never bought an R. Kelly album. I never bought an Aaliyah album. the last time I think I streamed intentionally a R. Kelly song was right before like he ended up getting arrested and stuff like that. There was like a remix song that he did with Nas, Street Dreams. That's also fire. You know, I'm not trying to put him on a list and give him clout, but I mean, it is what it is, right? So that being said, you know, like I never bought an R. Kelly album pretty much my entire life. Forgive me for the smoke alarm. But yeah, I never bought an Aaliyah album in my life. I was too young. Actually, by the time she died, I wasn't even out of high school. I was in middle school when she died, you know, so yeah, like I didn't fail her. It was y'all's generation that failed her, that especially the adults that are around at that time when that was happening. And guess what? Some of y'all are ignorant. Like, it's not like if you're not from Chicago or you weren't around those people, I don't think the emphasis should be put on you per se, because before the internet, there was just the radio and then the mainstream media. They weren't covering that stuff, to be honest. Like some guy freaking across the country doesn't know what R. Kelly's doing with Aaliyah. Hell, even when I was that age, I didn't know Aaliyah was so young. I was aging up the number. I didn't know she was freaking 14. I thought she was maybe freaking like 18, and she was talking about some new, like a lot older, maybe 16 or something like that. But I didn't know how old she was. But anyway, yeah, people want to say, "Oh, we failed them," but you're still failing your kids now. You want to look retrospect as if that was having a bad thing. You're failing your kids right now. You're failing your kids with the education system. You're failing your kids with teaching your kids about sex and healthy sexuality. Healthy sexuality, right? You're failing your kids in talking about relationships and how to navigate in them. You're failing your kids on mental health. You're failing your kids in talking about the dangers of alcohol and drug addiction. You're failing your kids in a lot of things. But you won't talk about that too, because that's a real hard pill to swallow, because guess what? You're suffering from the self problems. You don't even know how to get yourself out of it. Let's keep it a buck. So some of the stuff is still going on right now. And I'm not going to say these stars' names, but you want your kid to freaking be a movie star. You want your kid to be famous. What the industry is rife with people like that want to turn your kid out. Let's be honest. These industries, music industry, film industry, and stuff like that, is full of people that want to turn your kid out. Now, there are some good people in there. I'm not saying that. There's some people good in there. They do what they will need to do or whatever like that. But a lot of them are enablers too. They shut up and they do what they need to do in order to make that dollar, and they overlook what's going on. Jeffrey Epstein, freaking Harvey Weinstein, all those people, bro. Yeah, like all these quote predators and stuff, or you know, Bill Cosby, want to bring them to that. People let it go as long as they make their money, bro. These so-called righteous people, when it gets on the news, oh, I can't believe, bro. You knew all that. Get out of here, bro. Get out of here. The only reason you flipped the script is when it started hurt your pockets and when you're afraid to get called out. So-called righteousness, my ass. Anyway, so I'm gonna keep this short and sweet, but you know, I think I'm gonna just get to a summary right now. You know, my dad literally was still listening to R. Kelly like a whole minute ago. Actually, my dad played R. Kelly at his wedding. My dad got married last year. If he did to you, to your daughter, my sister, that what R. Kelly did, would you still have the same? Would you still have the same relevance? Like, still, we'd still play his music? Come on, man. I know my mom. You know, the last time I can't remember the last time I listened to R. Kelly, but my mom was listening to R. Kelly when that tape came out. She was listening to Chocolate Factory. She listened to Chocolate Factory over and over and over and over again. Thought it was the best thing ever. He was still popping after that tape came out. So, like, let's be honest. You guys are hypocrites, because guess what? Your desires matter more than actual morality. You want to have a good time. You want that release. You want that dopamine. You want that serotonin popping. So you'll see stuff that's going on in your life that you know is wrong. That is wrong. It makes you feel uneasy. You feel it in your soul. This is not some legal thing. It doesn't matter if it's legal or not. You just in your soul, you look at this and say, man, this is trash. And I'm not gonna be a hypocrite and say like I'm a perfect person, bro. Because I'll be the first person. Dude, I hate to say it, bro. In my personal life, I've seen things that are like, man, this kind of cringe. But a lot of the times, the reason I didn't do anything in those situations because there's times I did do something. People literally said, "Man, what the hell are you doing, bro? You wildin', you just hating this and that." So I'm like, "Hey, man, whatever, bro." You know what I'm saying? But I do take accountability for things that I should have stepped in. Maybe things I heard about things because rumors are always out there. I didn't step in and things like that. And then again, at the same time, I've been on the blood end. I'm not going to say that every rumor is true. I've had rumors about me that, that weren't true. I know what it's like to have, a negative things said about you that aren't sustainable or aren't substantiated. So at the same time, just because I hear rumors about something, if I don't see it actually happening, I'm going to inquire, but if it doesn't add up, it doesn't add up. And I'm going to be honest about that too. Right? Because you have to be honest. Like there's plenty of situations where rumors go out there, and we know even all the way from high school. There's always rumors like, "Oh, Becky's doing this. Oh, Johnny's doing that." It was all a bunch of lies because people do love to lie. People love to lie, bro. We live in a culture that rewards people for lying. So you don't think people are going to take advantage of that to give themselves kind of a position of relevance? People want attention. People, and this doesn't justify, rumors that are true from getting unsubstantiated or not, people doing their research. But like, let's be honest, like, it's an uncomfortable thing to talk about, but people love lying. So yeah, I'm just in this right now. Who failed R. Kelly? It is society, and it's the society of adults at the time, because you can't expect children to be on the moral high horse. We learn what is morally acceptable from our parents and the people above us. I'm not a kid anymore. But I've had to deconstruct the programming of my youth because of things I saw in society that were acceptable that obviously now I know as an adult, because society has changed. And overnight, it's like society is like overnight, like, oh, hey, these things are problematic. And if you participate in them, you're a terrible person. But we advertised, we supported, we gave relevance to all these behaviors prior to that. So hey, if you didn't participate in that, hey, you lucked out. But if you did participate in that, yeah, hey, get your bags packing. You're out of here. You can't just do that. It has to be a noticeable transition. It can't be just an overnight, 1 year overnight. You're going to say you can't use this word, and if you ever did, you're a bad person. You can't have these views. If you have these views, you're a bad person. That's just stupid. And what it does is it creates bitterness and resentment from people, and they just look at, hey, you know what? Screw society. Society is full of hypocrites. I don't want to participate in society. You know what? I'm gonna make my money. I'm just gonna play along to whatever, but I'm not morally invested, spiritually invested in our society. My heart's not in it. Let the world burn. And when the world burns, cool, I'm good. That's, real talk. That's how I feel sometimes. It's like, hey, let the world burn. So that being said, you guys have a wonderful day. Have some blessings. I wish you the very best. Sorry, this as well as a trigger topic for you. I'll be keeping you short and sweet from now on because I'm a long-winded kind of guy. Shout out to Edward Anderson. He's a good guy. If you look up Edward Anderson, he's actually a pretty good channel, man. He loves ranting about stuff. So you have a good one. Take care. And it's New Year's Eve. For those y'all celebrating, Happy New Year. If you make resolutions, don't just make them because it's New Year's Eve. Make them because you actually believe in them. And do your best to better yourself. And actually, you know what? I am going to stream right around midnight and just think about what this year meant for me and things that I learned about myself and things that I've overcome and things that I hope to achieve in the next year. You're welcome to join. Thank you so much. Like, share, subscribe. I'm out.